I remember the exact day I realized I wasn't going to be treated like my sister. I was 6, clutching a handmade birthday card from my dad. He barely looked at it before turning to Emily, who had bought him a store-bought card and a new tie. I stood there, smiling, hoping for a hug, but he only nodded. Emily got the hug. I walked back to my room, hiding tears behind a half smile. From that day, I started acting smaller. I avoided asking for help in school projects because I knew no one would celebrate my success. In 3rd grade, I spent weeks on a science fair volcano. I mixed vinegar and baking soda carefully, making it erupt perfectly. At the fair, Emily was standing next to a store-bought project, a glittery diorama. My volcano got a good job from the teacher. Emily won 1st place. I packed my project in silence and left before anyone noticed. At home, my parents reinforced the pattern. When I learned to play the piano, I practiced every day for hours, performing at the school recital. Emily, meanwhile, showed up once to a music class, tripped over the stool, and my mom clapped like it was a groundbreaking performance. I remember hiding in the bathroom after the recital, strumming quietly so no one would hear me. Sports weren't any better. I played on the local soccer team, scored multiple goals, and helped my team win the regional championship. When we returned home, Emily had forgotten her homework, and my mom exclaimed, "Emily, you need to focus. Don't copy your sister's laziness." I sat at the kitchen table, quietly cleaning my cleats, pretending I wasn't listening. Even small gestures were scrutinized. I once spent a whole afternoon baking cookies for my dad's birthday. I arranged them neatly in a tin, wrapped in paper. Emily handed him a giant pre-packaged cake with candles. He laughed, hugged her, and told me, "Next time, just buy it from the store. That's enough." I walked out of the kitchen and left the cookies on the counter. By the time I hit middle school, I had learned to avoid confrontation. I acted invisible, stayed out of the way, and focused on tasks quietly. When Emily started winning awards, going on trips, and gaining attention, I just smiled and nodded. I learned to do everything perfectly, not for praise, but to avoid getting blamed. By the age of 12, I was constantly managing chores around the house, picking up after Emily, and volunteering to babysit my younger cousin Lily whenever my parents needed me. I became the family's invisible worker, while Emily thrived, receiving endless attention and indulgence. Every action I took seemed calculated to avoid conflict rather than to gain recognition, and I had mastered it. When I turned 22, I moved into a small apartment downtown. I landed a decent job at a local marketing firm, juggling projects late into the night. I celebrated promotions quietly, never calling my parents. I knew the news would either be ignored or overshadowed by Emily's achievements. The first major confrontation came when Emily got engaged. My parents immediately began planning a lavish wedding. I was asked to organize the rehearsal dinner. I spent weeks negotiating with caterers, picking decorations, and coordinating schedules. Every suggestion I made for efficiency or cost cutting was dismissed. My parents insisted the wedding had to look like Emily deserved, throwing extravagant ideas at me. I spent nights hunched over spreadsheets, calculating guest lists and budgets, while Emily floated through rehearsals in silk dresses, unaware of the work I was doing. At the rehearsal dinner, my parents handed me a checklist of last-minute demands. "Make sure every cousin has a floral arrangement in their favorite color," my mom said. I spent hours running errands, buying flowers, and arranging them meticulously. Meanwhile, Emily went out for cocktails with friends, oblivious. The parents praised her for looking radiant. I quietly moved chairs and cleaned up spilled wine, making sure everything ran smoothly. Later that year, my grandparents passed away. I drove to their house and helped pack up their belongings. While Emily spent hours picking out keepsakes and heirlooms for herself, I sorted boxes of items that were left for me. When I brought up equal distribution, my parents immediately shut me down. "Emily needs it more," Dad said. "You'll understand when you're older." I packed the boxes silently, knowing my voice would be dismissed. Then came my engagement. I found the perfect venue. Small, cozy, affordable. I invited my closest friends and my cousin Lily. My parents heard about it and demanded a bigger, flashier venue. "You're making us look bad," my mom said. Emily's wedding set the standard. You have to follow it. I spent 2 days arguing, trying to negotiate compromises. My parents refused. I felt trapped but resolved to make the wedding my own, even if they didn't attend. When I announced my pregnancy, my parents insisted on a public dinner announcement. I refused. My spouse and I organized a quiet weekend gathering instead. Emily tried to show up uninvited, wearing the same outfit as me for coincidental matching. I politely asked her to leave. She complained to my parents, who called, demanding I let family traditions happen. I hung up and sent them a text. I will not let the past repeat itself. The first real breaking point came when my parents arrived unexpectedly at my apartment. I had been preparing the nursery with Lily's help, assembling a crib and painting walls. They barged in, demanding to see plans for the wedding and baby. I told them, "This is my home. You're not helping, you're disrupting." My dad scoffed, "We're your parents. You need our guidance." Emily followed, arms crossed, feigning offense. "You're ruining everything for everyone," she shouted. I took a deep breath, stepping in front of the crib. "No, I'm not living my life to make you comfortable. This is my wedding, my child, my rules. If you can't respect that, you don't come." My parents were silent, their mouths opening and closing. Emily looked ready to explode. I walked past them, carrying a box of baby clothes to the nursery, refusing to argue further. Lily followed, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. Over the next week, I worked tirelessly. I called vendors, finalized the guest list, painted the nursery, and even prepared a small, intimate ceremony with my spouse. Every task was done with precision, making sure nothing reminded me of the chaos my parents tried to create. I refused to answer guilt-laden calls, ignored texts, and even blocked Emily temporarily. On the wedding day, I was calm and composed. I moved chairs, arranged flowers, and guided the photographer. Guests complimented the setting, unaware of the month of struggle behind the scenes. When my spouse and I exchanged vows, I felt a wave of accomplishment. I had done everything myself without parental interference. Later, I spent hours assembling the baby's room. Every detail, paint, toys, crib sheets, was selected to create a safe, loving space, a sanctuary where my child would never feel invisible like I once did. Lily brought snacks and helped organize, joking and laughing, turning the nursery into a place of joy rather than tension. When my daughter was born, I held her in my arms and felt something I hadn't felt since childhood: complete control over my life. I refused visitors who would bring tension or judgment. My parents were kept at a distance. Emily sent flowers that I politely returned. I spent days taking care of my daughter, teaching her to reach for toys, showing her how to smile. I involved Lily in every step, grateful for her support. Together, we installed shelves, organized books, and hung pictures. The room was warm, safe, and full of laughter. Weeks later, I sent my parents a message. "We're happy. That's all that matters. If you want to be part of this, show respect first." They didn't respond. Emily blocked me on social media. I didn't care. I started hosting small family gatherings with friends and cousins who respected my boundaries. I cooked, cleaned, and celebrated without fear of being ignored or manipulated. Every action I took was deliberate, ensuring my family, the one I was building, would be different. Through this, I realized my strength. I could plan, organize, and protect without anyone's approval. I could assert boundaries, say no, and prioritize my happiness. The scars from my childhood remained, but every act of care for my daughter and every boundary I enforced was a step toward healing. I am no longer the forgotten child. I am a mother, a spouse, and a person who commands respect through action. My family's favoritism no longer dictates my life. I have created my own family, my own traditions, my own happiness. The lesson is clear. You may not choose your family, but you can choose your boundaries, your allies, and your path. And sometimes, standing up and acting decisively is the only way to ensure the next generation never feels invisible.